Welcome back
Welcome.
to Aetheral Space 2.8. End of this session of reading. We're quite far into the arc now.
Yeah, I'm now going to be 6 chapters rather ahead of everybody else, which means I can't talk about anything, and it's going to drive me nuts.
You can talk to me.
No, but you're just going to be like, who knows, to everything, which is boring. So once this episode comes out in like a million years, you guys can all give your reassurances to me. All right. So, recap of last time. Right. Dragon snuck a peek at Bruno/Serena's. I'm just going to call them Jakob because it's easier when I'm referring to them as a group. Jakob's hands, and they were all fucked up. And then Helga was like, "Hey, don't do that. You're a jerk." And then she showed that she was a skirrent, and she has funny arms that are see-through. And then Bruno kind of woke up, but he thought Dragon was some guy named Kot, so he tried to choke him. But he managed to, get away. And then a ship came down, a supremacy ship, belonging to a special officer.
This is where the boss music's playing.
I really hope. I don't have faith in him because he failed me last time, but if a fight ensues in this chapter, I want Tan to in post add in like battle music. It'll be so good. Dragon ran out of the medical tent, quickly followed by Mila and Aiden. The rest of the humanists had already gathered into a small, worried crowd with Helga at their head. She was staring up at the sky with angry, resolute eyes. A small vessel had just broken through the crowd layer and was rapidly descending down towards the camp. It was a long, thin saucer. Oh my god, UFOs! The only identifying features, save for shape, being the series of running blue and red lights along its underside. Not a ship that Dragon recognized, but he supposed that made sense. A lot of these special officers were narcissists who liked to stand out from their peers. As far as Dragon had seen, a toy Musashi had been a rare exception. So, my question is, when we see UFOs in the sky, is that Musashi?
No, it's just sort of a UFO-like ship.
A thought occurred. He'd look really stupid if he said that and then Musashi marched out of the ship, so he'd keep that praise to himself. In any case, he, Bruno, and Serena were screwed if they I see you don't use Oxford commas. Truly slothful. Were screwed if they stuck around. Any special officer who showed up would be eager to claim whatever rewards had been placed on their heads. He had to get them out of here. As the saucer descended, sending torrents of grass and a few loose tents flying away, Dragon turned to Mila. "I need to disappear. Fast!" he said seriously. "The stimulants. Help me grab as many as I can and get Bruno moving around before that ship lands." Mila hesitated for a moment, then nodded, and the two of them began running back towards the medical tent. As they moved, a darkness fell, the saucer blocking out the sun with its descent, swallowing the camp into its huge shadow. Dragon didn't look back. Every second mattered. When you had a gun to your head, you couldn't worry about the lighting of it. Special Officer Samael Ambrazo Zakos was in a good mood. Oh my god, that fucking name.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna call him Saz. Through the view screens, he could see that the crowd gathered at the front of the humanist camp were terrified, staring up at his ship with wide eyes. Good, good! He was being shown the respect he deserved as a special officer of the supremacy. How ironic that only these foreign masses could properly comprehend his glory, while the fossils of the supremacy simply sneered and called him unworthy. After passing his examination, Zakos had... Am I saying that right, or is it Zakos?
I say Zakos, but either one's fine.
Zakos had rightfully expected respect. He'd become a living legend, after all. Wasn't it natural to expect respect? Yes! There wasn't even a question there! Like humans breathed air, special officers were to be respected. He had joined the ranks of gods and of combat, standing alongside the likes of Volte Kojiro, Nitan Rush, and Achilles Esmeralda. Would one deny them their respect, owe to them via their accomplishments and station? No! The very notion was absurd! I know you don't read it, but that entire paragraph reads extremely like a fucking Record of Ragnarok monologue. Like, legitimately. I was just seeing it. Zakos' grip tightened on the controls. Sickly yellow aether whirling around his... piss-colored aether. Whirling around his hands at incredible speeds. The tiniest crack formed in the direction sticks he was maneuvering with, and he eased his grip just a tad. Still, he was entitled to respect. So yeah, that's what you meant by, like, the passive Aether, right? That most Aether users just have it. Is Dragon's like that too, though, because he's new to it?
When he turns it on, he just sort of keeps it going.
Okay. Still, he was entitled to respect. A normal man deserved basic respect, so a legend deserved nothing less than adoration! This was the natural order of things, which could be denied no more than one could deny their need to breathe. This is what people mean when they say this series is anime. This is not normal people.
These are not normal people, though.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. No, I love it, but I can see what people mean. And yet, whispers behind his back, laughter, dismissive glances, a compendium of indignities upon his personage. Unacceptable! Unacceptable! The ship landed with a soft thunk. His entrance had been perfect, the opening to his very own festival of success. He'd smashed through the atmosphere with ease, and now he landed soft as a pillow. He had displayed both the open palm and the closed fist. None could deny that. None. Not even that arrogant bastard, Atoy Muzazi. When they'd passed each other after their examination, that bastard had looked at him like filth. Who was he to judge Zakos? He had passed the examination like everyone else. Even if his methods had differed, he was a special officer all the same. The indignity of it, to be looked at with those eyes. The indignity.
This is the man who's perpetually ranting in his mind.
I'm imagining, like, his eyes rolling back into his head as he's, like, ranting.
Oh, he's like, outwardly, he seems really calm, is the thing.
Zakos cleared his throat and stepped up from his captain's seat, forcing calm onto his body. It wouldn't do for these people to see him agitated, even if it was a result of righteousness. He was the only living thing aboard his ship, the Chariot of St. Augustine. Oh, is that for Roger?
No, that's just the name of the ship.
Oh, well, that's where Roger's from.
Well, it's an unintentional Roger reference now.
Yeah, you should actually unironically tell Roger about this. He'd be really happy. But outside, there was no shortage of witnesses. He pulled up his sleeve and tapped a few buttons on his wristbound script. 2 humanoid automatics unfolded themselves from the wall and rose to their full height, looking for all the world like metal skeletons. Plasma rifles were built into their arms, and dim blue light shone from deep inside their eye sockets. So, do people in general not like supremacy ships, and that's why the humanists are panicking, or are the humanists also enemies of the supremacy, or are they just also worried because they know that these guys are criminals and want to help them?
Where it's like, if you are inside the supremacy, a supremacy ship is nothing weird. If you're outside of it, that's like you being in front of like a naval cruiser. The American Navy cruiser turns up looking all hostile.
Plasma rifles were built into their arms, and dim blue light shone from deep inside their eye sockets. So automatics are robots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were expensive, yes, but that did not mean Zakos bought his victories. He simply exerted financial strength, and the technical strength to deploy and operate his automatics too, so he has like 2 robot sidekicks.
At least 2, yeah.
Was that not equal, no, superior to the simple physical strength that whelps like Atoy Muzazi demonstrated? Yes! The answer was yes! No matter. Muzazi would look a fool now anyway. Not only had Zakos managed to intercept the transmission meant for him, he would now, while Muzazi and his new partner were wasting time elsewhere, execute the mission that Muzazi had embarked on. He couldn't wait to see the swordsman's humiliated face once he brought his quarry's heads before him. So this is the Deus Ex Machina. The reason they'll be able to win is because it's not Muzazi, it's Piss Boy.
There was a bit of a Muzazi lore that just went by there as well. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah. Muzazi had a partner.
His new partner.
His new partner? Who was his old partner?
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean he has an old one. Just now he has one and it's new.
Oh, I wonder who it is.
Muzazi supporting cast?
Prepare to deploy, he said. I like to imagine his outward voice, because you imagine he's calm is like very deep and regal, but his inward voice is very panicked and high-pitched. Prepare to deploy, he said, voice low and gruff, in utter contrast to the maelstrom raging in his mind. Bodyguard formation. Accept active orders. He tapped his script, and the automatics accepted his voice commands, taking up positions on either side of him. The hatch opened beneath him, and the section of floor he was standing on began to slide downwards like an elevator. The welcome darkness of his ship was replaced by blazing sunlight. Samael Ambrazo Zakos descended.
In his mind, that is definitely playing.
Dragon wasn't gentle with the stimulants. One after another, he injected Bruno and Serena, making sure that every drop of the medicine made its way into their body. They should be able to get a few hours of lucidity out of this, and then... No, he couldn't think about that yet. He'd come up with a solution for that. He had to. "How long is this gonna take?" he hissed, voice hushed as if the special officer was already in the room with them. Mila looked uncertain. It depends. Depends on what? Dragon tried to shake Bruno and Serena awake, but it did no good. She looked at him. Aether, maybe? Shit! Like she'd said, Aether could sometimes interfere with medicine, but this was ridiculous! Dragon was not dying because Bruno couldn't be bothered waking up. He tapped his hand against the worktop anxiously, hoping every second that Bruno would just open his eyes so they could get away. There was a heavy thud from outside, and Dragon's heart almost jumped out of his throat. He knew the sound of a ship landing when he heard it. To hell with it, then! He marched over to the bed, pushing a chair out of the way rather than walking around it, and pulled Bruno and Serena half out of the bed by their collar. Mila gasped, but he paid her no heed. It was do or die time. Dragon turned Bruno and Serena's head forcefully to the side, put his mouth as close to their ears as he could, and screamed, "Dragon Hadrian here! Wake the fuck up!" Oh, I thought he was gonna fucking do CPR for some reason.
My new alarm
the
clock.
way she was gasping. Bruno's eyes snapped open. Yes, the look on his face was definitely Bruno, and he swung a clumsy, delirious fist at Dragon. With an aether-infused hand, he easily batted the strike aside. Off balance from the deflection, Bruno almost fell to the floor, but Dragon caught them under the arm. "Pull yourself together," Dragon snapped. "We're in deep shit. We need to get out of here. Now!" Mumbled Bruno, not yet awake enough to form full sentences. Dragon took in a deep breath, squeezed his eyes shut. The combination of the situation and Bruno's irritating attitude was stressing him out like nothing else. But there was no time to be petty. He needed to communicate the situation quickly and get them out of there. He opened his eyes. "Skipper and Ruth are off planet," he said, forcing Bruno to look at him so he could be sure he was understood. "A special officer just landed. They're looking for us. We need to get out of here." Bruno's pupils dilated from the stimulants, wavered for a moment, but then focus returned to them, and he nodded shakily. I gotta move. We gotta move," he said, thoughts clearly still a jumble. "Gotta get out of here. Which way?" "Huh?" Bruno glared at him, irritation pulling him back into lucidity. Which way are we going?" "Opposite of the enemy. Where are they landed?" "Oh," said Dragon.
You've been so mad that you stopped being sick?
He pointed in the vague direction of where the ship had been coming down. "They've landed right in the center of the encampment. Right, Mila?" Mila nodded. "Right. Look, I need to get back in case anyone gets hurt." "Go back, then," said Bruno, taking charge. If we move in too big a group, we'll be more easily noticed. You head back first. Then we'll make a break for it through the back into the grasslands." Mila nodded again, then ran out of the tent. They heard her footsteps heading back in the direction of the ship. "Give it a minute or two," slurred Bruno, sitting down in the chair for a moment, breathing heavily. "I need to catch my breath." Dragon turned on him, the stress coursing to his body like fire. "We can't just wait around," he said. "Like I said, they're looking for us now! Get off your ass!" Bruno went to snap something back, but Serena asserted herself instead. "Sorry, Mr. Hadrian," she said sadly, "but we're really tired. We don't feel so good." Aww. Arg! He could yell at Bruno as much as he wanted, but with Serena it was like kicking a sad puppy. "No!" "Look," he said, wiping a hand through his hair. "I understand. I get it. Yeah, it's just that this is a fairly time-sensitive situation, you know? We need to get out of here now." "Right," said Bruno, grunting as he pushed himself out of his chair. "We go now." He walked towards the entrance of the tent, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. We rented
staggering
the tent, Bruno.
at first, but quickly regaining his balance. As he moved, he pulled 2 large sheets of black fabric from a pile of spare materials and tossed one to Dragon. "Get yourself covered up," he said. "At the very least, they won't know which one of us is which. They'll be more cautious before they attack if they're uncertain of their target." Dragon thought of sending some sarcastic comment back, of trying to reassert control of the situation, but despite how much he didn't care for Bruno, he couldn't deny that the asshole probably knew what he was talking about. It was humiliating, but Dragon shut his mouth and did as he was told. I'm gonna have to popcorn, and I know it's early, but I'm very funny.
Aiden's teeth shattered as he watched the man... Shattered, sorry. As he watched the man march out of his ship, flanked on either side by a menacing-looking automatic. The man was tall with spiky red hair, eyes concealed behind a pair of jet-black sunglasses. His body was tense.
Oh, what a badass!
His body was tense with muscle, and he wore a sweeping red long coat. He grinned widely, showing off his teeth. They were dyed black, so it was almost like there were sunglasses over his mouth as well.
Who would dye their teeth?
It is a thing.
Is that in real life?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's weird,
But
man.
that wasn't the unusual thing about him. What was unusual were the man's arms. They were freakishly long enough that the fingers of his hands could drag themselves across the ground as he walked, like an orangutan. The man stepped in front of their group, marched right up to Helga.
Slenderman special officer.
With just the arms. Howdy, the man said, voice gruff. Special Officer Samael Ambrezzo Zakos. Helga glared up at him. What do you want? The Supremacy has no business here. This planet has no legal owner. You have no jurisdiction here. The Special Officer took a deep breath through his nose as if restraining a sudden burst of anger. Then he spoke with a seemingly easy smile. For now, he said. But we Special Officers are a special breed, right? You know that. Wherever we stand is our jurisdiction. That's the kind of will we have, you know? So saying things like, you have no business here is really just meaningless. You have to understand that, right?
So in a sense, special officers, depending on how they view themselves, can be seen as the literal center of the universe.
Yeah, so this guy's clearly let the position go to his head a little. Helga blinked, clearly a little overwhelmed by the verbal assaults that had just been unloaded on her. Aiden thought of speaking up, but his mouth wouldn't move, and neither would his legs for that matter. There wasn't anything he could do anyway, so there was no point in saying anything anyway. Let me just correct
Ooh,
that.
too many anyways.
I think. There wasn't anything cowardly about that. There wasn't. The Special Officer leaned in just a little, towering over Helga with that grin on his face. The man called Skipper, Ruth Blaine, Jacob Del Ced, Dragan Hadrian. Where are they? Helga stared up into his eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, she said.
The man simply known as Skipper.
Zakos took another deep breath through his nose, his hands clenching into fists and tearing out 2 bundles of grass in the process. He closed his eyes and bit his lip, head angled up towards the sky. Take aim, he said, and the automatics flanking him suddenly pointed their arms towards Helga.
No!
The gun barrels protruding from their wrists glinting in the sunlight. A chorus of cries rang out from the crowd, and a scuffle as people tried to push past each other to move away. Aiden stayed where he was, body locked into place by fear. The only motion he was capable
Coward.
of was chattering his teeth. Move, he told himself desperately. She'll die! Say something! Do something! He didn't move. He said nothing. He did nothing. Fire on 3, said Zakos, sounding almost bored.
Oh my god, Zakos is clap syncing with his automatics.
Plasma begins to build up in the automatic's weaponry, each barrel producing a sinister orange glow. 1, 2, 3. Helga stepped forwards, as if to say something, to whisper some plea, but before she could, wait! The voice echoed out, and Zakos raised a hand, pausing the movements of the automatics. The Special Officer looked towards the speaker. Aiden turned his head to the left to look as well. The sound had originated from right beside him. Dion stood there, ruined arm still contained in a cast bound to his chest. He was unsteady on his feet, but his glare towards Zakos was resolute. You have something to say to me? The Special Officer said, raising an eyebrow. Dion nodded. Aye, they're here. The people you're looking for.
Judas!
Zakos waved his hand and the automatics lowered their arms. Oh, he said. And where they might... that's my fault. And where might they be? To be fair, though, he is raised enough that he could might have just said that.
I know for the tension of the story, he's obviously going to answer, but it would be funny if after he already got the automatics to lower their arms, he just said, up your ass.
And where might they be? Helga looked at Dion, slowly shook her head while Zakos was looking away from her. Dion didn't seem to notice. The palace, Dion said, swallowing. His expression was firm. The ruins, I mean. They're hiding out in there. Zakos smiled, nodded at the lie. I see, he
Not
said.
the Judas!
He said softly. Name?
All that does is buy them, like, a couple of minutes.
Name? Huh? Your name! Zakos shouted, eyes suddenly wide, spittle flying from his mouth. Helga visibly winced, and Dion took a cautious step back. Aiden hadn't quite noticed it at first, but he realised now that over the last few minutes he'd gradually been moving his body away from Dion, trying to get as far away as possible. Shame and self-loathing bubbled up inside him and he sniffled, which only made him feel more pathetic. Dion Mace, Dion said, standing upright, a peculiar kind of dignity to him. Even with a Special Officer staring angrily into his eyes, he didn't look away. He didn't even glance. Good man, Dion Mace, said Zakos, his voice suggesting nothing of the sort. Go to that palace and tell them to come present themselves before me. Otherwise...
So you want an unarmed civilian to catch the criminals and bring them, because they'll totally listen to him.
Otherwise, He nodded his head towards the crowd. The message was clear. So yeah, he's got some hostages.
Zakos to me!
Musashi would weep.
Musashi would weep. This is where Musashi comes in and cuts his head off clean in one fucking thunderclap strike or whatever.
As you say, Dian said through clenched teeth, turning and beginning his walk towards the palace, the crowd moving aside to grant him passage. He began to ascend the hill towards the stone Goliath. Adin could hardly breathe. What were they supposed to do? That lie would cover them for maybe 5 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes! And once Dean came back empty-handed, they'd be back at square one. Half of the people the special officer was looking for weren't even here anymore anyway, so he couldn't... What? So, couldn't they just tell him that? Wasn't that the smart thing to do? He'd go look for them, and then they'd be safe. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die like this, helpless, and at the hands of someone who could erase him with barely any effort at all. It wasn't fair. They had to do something. Fire, said Zakos.
No! Betrayal!
Aiden looked at him, a strangled squeak escaping from his throat. Helga simply screamed. Everything that unfolded in the next few seconds felt like a dream. The automatics raised their arms again, pointed them towards Dean's shrinking back, and fired. Not just one shot, but a torrent.
But why? Why didn't he give Dean the chance?
Not just one shot, but a torrent of plasma fire. Dean looked back at the sound of the blast, but it was too late. One blast hit him on the chin, sending him crumpling down to the floor with a hideous cracking noise. 2 more hit him in the chest as he...
Did it, like, laser through him? Or are they, like, blunt attacks?
They're like sort of half liquid melty shit, but it's also
Yeah,
electronetic.
so it did, like, laser through his chin.
Yeah. 2 more hit him in the chest as he fell, producing a smell like that of burning meat and fabric. Dean collapsed into a motionless pile. But Zakos wasn't finished. The blast continued, an endless hail of them, and when the smoke cleared there was no corpse, only a smoking skeletal ruin, liquid meat flowing into the grass beneath it. The stink was unbearable, and Aiden was unable to restrain the urge to vomit. He wasn't the only one. Helga stirred, wide-eyed and open-mouthed at what was left of Dean. Behind her, Zakos growled. Wait, he says? Fucking interrupting me? He muttered, trembling with fury. Fucking lying to me? I don't fucking
How does he know he was lying?
Smart guy. I don't fucking think so. Fucking bullshit. Don't go looking down on me, you fucking corpse. As he ranted, Aiden could see more figures emerging from the ship behind him. More automatics, totaling at least 10. They arranged themselves into a line behind their master. Fan out, Zakos barked. Search the camp. I want these bastards found, and I want them dead.
Zakos asserting himself as the hateable villain. Man.
So, yeah.
Down bad. I can't believe they killed Aiden. We knew so much about him.
Wow, they didn't kill Aiden.
Dean. His arm just healed, and then... No.
He has to go back to the medical tent for being dead.
I think he's done! I don't think, unless there's like some bullshit Deus Ex Machina... Is there any medicine in Aetheral Space
He is mega dead.
Okay.
He is deader than dead. His corpse is no longer one thing.
Yeah.
It's no longer solid.
Damn.
So yeah, very different
well,
kind of
you were
special
worried
officer.
about having too many characters. There's one less.
So yeah, very different kind of special officer from Musashi.
Wow.
So yeah.
Alright. Question... Oh wait, didn't I already ask how they're going to deal with this last time?
Yeah. You can't do that every question. What do you think happens next?
I know, I'm thinking of a new question. Okay, who do you think Musashi's partner is, or what they'll be like? I mean, obviously we don't know who they are. It's a new character, but like, what do you think made him get a partner, and why, and what do you think they'll be like? Blah blah blah. Let us know.
Anything you want to say about what occurred?
Zakos will be punished. Smile.
Bad man.
Samael. I peaked the audio so bad there.
Long arm man.
Bye.
Bye.